Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week and National Teacher Day. I am so pleased to be here with three teachers from across the country. Miss Lennon Walter of the hit ABC sitcom Abbott Elementary, which, by the way, is amazing. Our U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, and our amazing National Education Association President, Ms. Becky Pringle. Thank you for joining us for this important conversation. It's no secret that times have been pretty tough for families, parents, students, and mainly teachers. And as said by Bryant H. McGill, one of the sincerest forms of respect is actually listening to what another has to say. And that is so important, right? Our goal tonight is to provide a platform for teachers to share the realities of teaching right now in this moment and what they really need to feel encouraged, appreciated, and respected. We will also discuss ways that communities, parents, students, and policymakers can support our nation's educators. But before we dive into that conversation, I would like to welcome someone that I think is Supergirl. Superwoman. And it's the NEA president, Ms. Becky Pringle, and she's here to share some remarks. Becky?
Oh, Anna, thank you so very much for your kind introduction and for your amazing and visionary leadership as the president of the National PTA, which is one of NEA's, as you know, most valued and long-term partners. I am so honored to be here with Secretary Cardona, a true champion of educators who, from day one, has partnered with NEA to ensure that our students have the access and the opportunities and the support they so need and deserve. I cannot begin to describe my delight when I heard that Lisa Ann Walters, AKA my Philly homegirl from Abbott Elementary, playing the role of Melissa. She has done, along with her cast and crew and Quinta, have done just an amazing job of bringing voice to real educators in real schools, working so hard for real students. So we're so thrilled that she agreed to moderate tonight's discussion. There is no office, no accolade, no honor that equals that of being a teacher. You know, I taught science for over 30 years, and when I first heard that said, I felt such a sense of pride. I soon learned that it wasn't just teachers, it's all of the educators who in our schools who surround our students with the support and love and nurturing that they need so they can be ready to learn every single day. As we begin our conversation tonight, my thoughts are focused on the wonders of all of our public educators and what they do every day to cultivate that joy of learning, to ensure their students have all they need and deserve to thrive and grow so they can live into their brilliance. NEA is thanking teachers across the country by asking them what they need and what would make them feel most appreciated. What we are hearing is no surprise. They want solutions to the educator shortage so that students can receive the one-on-one attention they need. They want the resources, mentoring, and the support every professional needs. They want mental health healthcare for their students. They want to make sure they have the resources and professionals for their students and for their educators. One teacher said that what she wanted was just one day out of the entire school year where she could focus on her own well-being because she knows that her well-being impacts the well-being of her students. A teacher from New Jersey said she wants to have access to the supplies she needs to do the jobs she loves. I just want to tell you tonight, my fellow educators, we see you, we hear you. And I know that each of you that have joined us here tonight is dedicated to not only discussing the harsh realities facing education professionals today and into the future, but engaging in the deep collaboration that's designed to create long-standing solutions. Thank you so much for joining us and for agreeing to engage in this powerful discussion. Anna?
Thank you, Becky. I couldn't agree more with about any and everything that you just said. It's so important for our teachers to be respected and understood inside of their classroom. Thank you for those comments. Now I get the fun part, you guys, of welcoming and introducing Miss Lisa Ann Walter, who will be moderating this amazing conversation this evening. You probably know her from the role as the beloved Jessie in the film The Parent Trap. By the way, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. She is also now one of the stars of ABC's hit workplace comedy, Abbott Elementary. Another plug-in, please go check it out. It's amazing as well. She's also the mother of 4 children. Wow, 4. And her mom was a public school teacher in Washington, D.C. She understands how important it is for our teachers to have the resources that they need to be successful in their classroom. And I want you guys to help me give her a round of applause for joining this wonderful conversation as the moderator, Miss Lisa Ann Walter. Yay!
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you for what you said, Becky. It makes me starting this off very easy. As you said, I am an actress. I've been in lots of shows. I've created a couple of shows. I wrote a book, but my most important role is, as you said, as the mom of 4 children that I know of. And one of my kids is a teacher therapist for kids on the spectrum. She's back east now getting her PhD, and I couldn't be prouder. She was the one where school really worked. And I'm also, as you mentioned, the daughter of a public school teacher. So I watched what my mom went through growing up in trying to wrangle funds. Even then, it's not as bad as it is now, but even then in an underfunded school system of downtown DC, none of my success that I've had would have been possible without the remarkable teachers I had in my own life, including Mrs. Freddie Davey, who was Teacher of the Year in Montgomery County, Maryland. And if any of you guys know that school system, it's one of the top 10 in the country. Still, I think to this day, and being one of the best from that school system, she was unbelievable. She was one of the ones that recognized that me running my mouth, not being able to stop when I was excited by an idea because I loved learning, it would behoove all of us in the class, if she put me in the front of the class, to teach what I knew. That because my mother, who was very smart and taught me to read when I was 3, because this is what she said, you want to take a nap or do you want to read? Well, what 3-year-old picks I want to sleep? So of course I figured out how to read on those Dick and Jane books. And then the wonderful teachers that I had in kindergarten, instead of having me sit there and become bored with learning letters, sent me to the upper grades to read to them and to help teach them. And my wonderful teacher, Mrs. Davey, had me teach the classes. So I feel like I did a tiny bit of it when I was younger with teachers that understood me. Being in a show like Abbott now, where we hear some wonderful things from teachers who tweeted us and reach us on social media, one of the best things that we can hear is, I feel seen. I feel like you understand what we're going through, that we're real human beings and not, when kids go to the mall and they see their teacher hanging out, they think, what are you doing here? Why are you a full human being? I think we see so often in television and movies that teachers are a one-note idea, that they don't get it and they're dumb, or that they're overbearing and mean. And teachers are full humans. We have our moments of doubt. We have our weaknesses. I say we like I am one. I'm not, but I pretend. But there are failures and there are wins, and that we get to show all of that is really a blessing. There was a line in the pilot of Abbott where my character, Melissa Schmente, says to the Quinta Brunson character, Janine Teagues, who's a brand new teacher, it's a calling. You answered. You don't get a choice. in this, right? This is what you were meant to do. And I think about that because I love it. And it always made me kind of tear up when I would go over it on the script. But it's not always great news that this is a calling, that teachers are so meant to do this. I've watched my children's classroom sizes go from the optimum for learning, which is 20, to over 40. I would go downtown to LA and talk to the superintendent and say, I've got my kids' classroom, they're lined up against the wall. They don't have enough desks. They can't fit them in the classroom. That is not an optimum learning situation for the kids, and certainly not for the teachers. You might have 20 13-year-old boys in the class at one time. I don't know how you could get a sentence. By the way, boys aren't the worst necessarily. 13-year-old girls are rough too. But it's just getting harder and harder. It wasn't until my twins, who are my youngest, they're 21 now, when they were in middle school, that I started hearing about having them go through active shooter drills. This is not the school system that we grew up in. So all of the things that you face, my respect for you, teachers, has been immense throughout the years, but it has grown exponentially in the last couple of years in what you're dealing with. The school board shenanigans, everything that you guys are going through. We see it, I see it personally. And I have said for years, by the way, that the reason we don't pay teachers what they deserve is because it is an historically female dominant profession. I love that we see when we're looking online that more men are considering coming back into the field. I don't know if it's because of our show, but they're saying, maybe I should go back and get my degree. It's important that men are represented in this field. And it just warms my heart. But I think that now, it being Teacher Appreciation Week, the respect and the appreciation is what I wish for you. What I wish for you is this: better pay, better budgets and funding, and that those who make the decisions about what it is that you deserve just do better. And I thank you all for doing what you do every day. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome a panel of teachers from all across the country who are going to answer a few questions about what the challenges that you face. First, please welcome Samantha Tuig, who is a teacher for students on the autism spectrum. She is at Winfield Middle School in Winfield, West Virginia. She received her master's degree in special ed and elementary education from West Virginia U in 2019. And she is also the vice president of the Putnam County Education Association. Please welcome Samantha Tuig.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome. And if you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, that'd be great.
Okay, so I teach in Winfield, West Virginia, middle school. I'm not sure how I ended up here, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I teach students on the autism spectrum. Like you said, boys are not always the worst, but I have a classroom of all boys. It is interesting. And so some colleagues and I were laughing today watching Abbott Elementary. It's almost scary how accurate the show is in many of the scenes. We, in the last few weeks, we've had administrators playing plumbers and figuring out all the things that we never thought we'd be doing. So we appreciate you bringing those not so comical at the time situations to life and giving us a chance to laugh about them later.
Well, you're welcome. And that's how you get through things, right? You laugh. Because the other option is crying. So next we have Miss Teresita de la Torre. Am I pronouncing that right, Teresita?
Yes, you are.
She is a licensed bilingual speech language pathologist working with 3rd to 5th graders in New Mexico's, my glasses aren't on. So is it Bernalillo?
Bernalillo Public Schools. Yep.
I'm pretty good. I'm getting good here. The public school district there, and she's been in the field for 11 years. She's got an MA in Communication Sciences and Disorders from New Mexico State University. And tell us about yourself, Teresita.
So I am also a mother of 3, devoted wife. Been doing this job, for, like I said, 11 years. I just absolutely love it. I love working with my students, my colleagues, awesome working relationship. So just really enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Really enjoying it, I think, is key to not pulling your hair out and going crazy, right?
Yes.
And next up, we have a veteran social studies teacher at the Denver Center for International Studies in Denver, Colorado. He is also the host of Two Dope Teachers and Mike podcast with 2021 Colorado Teacher of the Year, Gerardo Munoz. I'm not saying that right, I can guarantee. Kevin Adams. Kevin, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, first of all, Lisa, thank you. It's so great to be here on the panel with all of these great educators. And I am a social studies teacher. I work with sixth grade this year, teach sixth grade, 2 sections of sixth graders, and they are exciting middle schoolers. And I have 2 sections of 10th grade. One is an AP World History 10th grade class. The other is just a traditional world history 10th grade class. And I just want to give a shout out to my students. They make every day exciting. I also have a 7th grade advisement. This year has been a year for the books, definitely. Probably plenty of material from Abbott that we could all, I think, supply.
I think that we're going to have a double long season just to go over all of the craziness that's happened. I love your background, by the way. Your students must think you're hella cool. Okay, so I'm going to throw this first question to you right off the bat. From battles over pandemic-related policies to debates around instruction related to race, racism, and gender, education and the teaching profession have been hot topics in the media and public arena for the past couple of years. Can you share what you have been experiencing in your area and in your teaching role, and what you wish would be spotlighted as it relates to teaching and education? You don't have to answer all of that if you don't want. Pick a piece of it, Kevin.
Well, there's just so much to it. I think I'm part of the Denver Classroom Teachers Association bargaining team. And so I've worked on our COVID MOU that we got settled, I think, at the beginning of February, which seemed kind of late to the game, considering that our mask mandates ended February 25th. Mm-hmm. So dealing with that stuff, and I think we've kind of gotten through that stuff. Definitely, as you mentioned, racial issues, dealt with a racial challenge between some students today that happened in my advisement, and thinking about how we work through having these complex, courageous conversations in our classrooms with students who might not always be good at this stuff, and helping them to process information that they're learning from home, that they're getting out of the media, things like that. But I think the biggest thing this year that I would love to have spotlighted when it comes to the challenges that we're facing are the social, emotional needs of our students. I speak on behalf of all of my colleagues, but especially my special service providers who have been overwhelmed and constantly in crisis mode this year to meet the needs of students and educators, to just thinking about what we have to do and the needs that our students are coming with. And I have never seen this many emotional breakdowns in our schools of 6 through 12. And it's not like it's one grade level, it is multiple grade levels. Mm-hmm. So I think really it has to be made clear that our kids are struggling. And I think we have the opportunity to really develop some stronger supports to make them better people all around, right? Yeah. And understanding that our social, emotional, and mental health, I think after coming out of this pandemic, is a critical need. And I think we've got to take steps to address those needs.
That's a great answer, Kevin. And as I see what my kids' friends have gone through and themselves, that mental support is so important because of not, it's interesting because it could be the basis for great conversation starters and a teaching mechanism to deal with everything that's going on, but it also gets used politically. And then kids don't feel safe. And there's a lot of not feeling safe. So I'm wondering what you see in your classroom, Teresita, because I know the younger kids are feeling it too. Teresita?
Can
Oh, there she
you
is.
hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so I think that in our district or our state in general, we have a very diverse population. We are working with students from different cultural backgrounds. In our district, we have about 50% students who are Native American and 50% of our students who are Hispanic. And so we're trying to kind of meet all of their needs, but then intertwine into all of that is the fact that a lot of them are second language learners. And so we're having to work that into the curriculum, right? But then we're having to deal with these issues related to the fact that a lot of them live in rural areas, and we're having to try to bring education to them, education, technology, meals. And then a lot of them are being raised by grandparents or other family members. And due to COVID, a lot of these family members did not make it out of the pandemic. So these students are dealing with grief and loss and trying to figure out, how to deal with these challenges. That we're seeing the behaviors that are coming from that, the lack of socialization. And so now, how is it that we can approach that and make it better for them?
Thank you. I appreciate it, Teresita. Okay, next question. A recent survey found that teachers' job satisfaction levels appear to have hit an all-time low, and there's a growing perception among teachers that their work is not understood or appreciated. Can you share what true appreciation means to you and ways your community could truly show appreciation and respect for you? Let's go to Samantha.
Hi, so yes, as a new teacher who has never taught outside of this pandemic, it has been interesting to say the least over the last few years. I think teaching and living in a very small community where we know most of our families and most of the students who step foot in our building before they come to us, I have a little bit of a different perspective than those who teach in bigger cities. I feel respected most of the time. However, there's been a big shift in the last few years, trying to get used to living in a whole new world. And so when I was talking to my colleagues about some of the questions and how they feel, because obviously my classroom's a little bit different with only 7 kids and 7 families. We have made our own little family. I think one of the biggest issues that we face right now is lack of support, and it's hard to do your job whenever you feel like you have parties coming at you from every different directions with different inputs and advice and thinking they can do your job better than you can. And so in West Virginia, the last few years, it's been interesting. We kind of helped and there's really been a shift for teachers since then. As far as a state with families and administrators, I feel that we are seeing a bit more with our lawmakers, not so much, but yeah, we're getting there.
I think that that's a common thread. And real quick, because we're running out of time, but I want to get an answer from Kevin and from Teresita. What do you, what it says is that surveys show that educators are planning to lead the profession in record numbers. What support do you need? What is it most? Is it from parents? Is it from the administrators or lawmakers to make you want to be to stay and be happy in your profession? And you can also answer the other question: what do you want to feel appreciated? Is it parents' involvement? Is it funding? Kevin. What do you need, man? What do you need?
What do we need? Fully fund education. In our state, in Colorado, I believe the class of 2023 has never received a fully funded year of education in their career, in their educational career. So, I think funding is critical. I think in this country, we tend to say that if we care about something, we put money into it. And so I think it's definitely time to put our money where our mouths are. And then the other thing I'll just say really quickly is you could show me that you appreciate me by treating me with the professional respect and understanding that I really am good at what I do. I wouldn't have been doing it for 16 years if I wasn't. And so hearing our voices as educators at the table, I think is critical when it comes to policies, and where we are going in this profession of education. I think it's critical. And then the last thing is, show me with that paycheck. Show me with that paycheck.
Show me the money, says Kevin.
Money.
All right, Teresita, in 10 seconds, wrap it up. What do you need to feel appreciated?
Definitely, I agree with everyone else. Give us that respect that we deserve, but also looking at the compensation, which is great, right? In New Mexico, we've kind of made a leap towards that, but I think a lot of educators in New Mexico are a little bit worried or reluctant to really be excited about it, because we want to make sure that more money doesn't mean more work. So we want to be able to figure out how can we make the workloads equitable, and actually provide a compensation that's equitable for the work that we're doing and not giving us more work because of it.
We're going to hire you to do the work of 3 teachers, since we're paying you a barely living wage. Got it. Okay, so now with that, we have a bunch of people that sent in voice memos to the NEA to say what they would want to feel appreciated. So let's roll that, please.
For Teacher Appreciation Week, I love the heartfelt thanks of my students when they write me that special letter or draw me a picture or give me a hug. And that's also been lacking during COVID. We haven't been able to give hugs, and that would make my day, make my year, to be able to hug all my kiddos and just hold them tight.
For teacher appreciation, what I want and what I need is the basic dignity of a living wage, but additionally, a mental wellness day. Teachers have had the hardest year of their lives in doing this work to support our youth, and having a day to take care of ourselves would make me feel respected for the work that I'm doing.
What do teachers want for Teacher Appreciation Week? I think what we really want, instead of coupon codes and snacks in break rooms, is we want the investment in our schools. We want staff to have living wages. We really want what's best for our students, best for our families, best for our community.
This is Mary Smith. One thing teachers need is more resources to support our students' social and emotional learning and their mental health in the classroom.
Hello, my name is Jamie. I'm a high school English teacher from Geneva, Ohio, and what would make me feel most appreciated is if lawmakers could stop using education as a tool to gain political ground. What I mean by this is, rather than arguing about critical race theory and other non-existent issues in the classroom, lawmakers should focus on how to improve the lives of each student, improve funding so that everyone has fair, adequate, and challenging resources to help broaden their horizons and make their learning easier and deeper.
I'm Kirsten Milks in Bloomington, Indiana, and the thing I want for Teacher Appreciation Week this year is for all schooling systems to make and create and sustain cultures of learning rather than cultures of performance. As people tackle big issues, they're going to go through growth, and our classrooms should celebrate that. Our administrative systems should celebrate that. Our curricula should celebrate that.
Hi, this is Melissa. I'm a special education teacher in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I would feel most appreciated if my student loan debt was forgiven, so that I don't have to worry about that additional $8,000 that I had to borrow in order to be certified in special education. That would be a wonderful gift from the federal government.
My name is Kathy, and I'm an elementary school counselor. What I think teachers really need is lower class sizes, because they can't adequately do their job with such high numbers. So I would appreciate lower class sizes.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm a high school English teacher in New Jersey, and what I want most is to work in a building with the supplies I need and have everything I need to do my job.
I like personalized, heartfelt things. Share your best memory. Draw me a picture about, what excited you the most from this year. And sometimes, like last year when it was really difficult, I look back on those. A thank you for just being a teacher means a lot.
Well, that was succinct. We want things to be better. I love it. So please help me welcome back to the discussion NEA president, and I love that she's self-described a fierce social justice warrior, Becky Pringle, and National PTA president, Anna King. And please let's welcome to the chat, U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. I just want to say a little bit about you because I've been reading up on you, Doctor. And some of these things are wonderful. 2 decades as a teacher, you served as a school principal, but you were principal of a school with programming for 3 to 5 year old students that were bilingual and students with sensory exceptionalities, which you did for 10 years before you became Commissioner of Education in Connecticut, and of course now serve as Secretary of Education under President Biden. That is a remarkable career. And is there anything that you want to tell us, a standout moment? Oh, also father of 2, you fit that in your very busy life. Is there anything that you want to tell us that stands out to you in your career in education?
Yes, well, glad to be here. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Love that I'm on a panel with my friends Becky and Anna. And Lisa, thank you for what you do. Those 10 years as a principal of that school reminded me the promise that we have. And the opportunity for diversity to be our greatest strength. And we know that we have a lot of work to do and that the right people are in front of the classrooms now. So those experiences were amazing and helped prepare me for where I am today.
Fantastic. Okay, so I have a few questions for the 3 of you. Becky, with our nation in the midst of an unprecedented school staffing crisis, what long-term viable solutions will help attract and retain a quality workforce in our public schools? And can you share some recent examples of success? That's for Becky. Is Becky here?
I'm here. I am
I'm sorry.
here. I was so busy reacting to our educators, I was too loud. I told me to mute myself. I can't imagine why. Lisa, let me just begin. Hashtag thank a teacher. Just do that. Thank a teacher. Thank all of the educators who are working in our schools today. So when we think about long-term solutions, the very first thing we must do, and Secretary Cardona, I want to thank you for partnering with me, with NEA, with educators all across this country, because that's the first thing we're going to talk about, Lisa. It is always about collaborating and making sure that everyone in the system, because it can't just be the education system, is sharing the responsibility that when we say every student, we actually mean every student. So we've got to work with educators and their unions, the people who represent them, to ensure that we give them what they need and deserve. You've heard our panelists, all of whom I've been with. So thank you, Samantha, for reminding us that you kicked off the Red Fred movement in West Virginia, right? West Virginia. That's right. I was there at your capital. And Kevin, I was standing with you and the other half of your two dope educators interviewed me as I stood on your capital in Colorado. And of course, Teresita, New Mexico. I was just there, right? We were marching around the Capitol together saying we must have that competitive pay. That is the second thing we've got to focus on to not only attract educators, but to keep them in the profession. We've got to focus on both of those things. Just recently in Los Angeles, our local there negotiated a 5% increase, Lisa, to their salaries. Neighboring San Diego did almost as well, 4%. And they did that through the collective bargaining process, which is so important. And even in those states that don't go through that process, it is about labor management collaboration, making sure that we raise those salaries. Working conditions, you heard all 3 of our teachers talk about that. So we're not only talking about safe and just and equitable schools. I heard every educator as I traveled across this country talk about time. I need time to do the job I love. I need time to talk with parents. I need time to collaborate with fellow educators. I need time to focus on those individual students' needs. And for that to happen, they've got to address staffing levels. We know we don't have enough teachers or subs or any of that. And we see some examples, Secretary Cardona, in Columbus, Ohio, for example, they use their ARP money, right, to hire more counselors and nurses and educators. And then we need to remove barriers, and we need to without lowering our standards. So when you heard the one teacher saying, "Take away my student loan debt, Secretary Cardona, thank you, and let's just remove it." How about that? Let's keep our promise to our educators and remove that debt and make it affordable for them to go to school, period, and then to choose education and not have to be in a profession where they have to make choices about whether they can take care of their own family. So we see incredible examples, Lisa, all over this country of ways we have used that historic funding, the American Rescue Plan money, to make things better, but we've got to do more. We have to make it systemic, like they did in New Mexico, like they did in Mississippi, where they, in both cases, passed legislation and the governor signed into law, raises not just for our teachers, but for our support staff, far too many of them living below the poverty line. So those are some of the things that I've heard from educators, and those are the things that we at the NEA are working on to change so we can address this crisis in education. We know that every single student must have a qualified, caring, and committed teacher in their classrooms so they can grow and learn and thrive.
Thank you. Beautifully said. Yes, and support staff, going back to what Kevin was saying earlier about some of the mental health issues that these generations of children are experiencing. Anna, during the pandemic, it has been more important than ever for teachers and parents to collaborate to support student success. In what ways should parents and teachers work together, and can you share some examples of effective parent-teacher partnerships?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for that question. That's really good. And you put me right after Becky. So this is going to be a hard act to follow, right?
You're
because
awesome.
she's talking about collaboration, and it's important to collaborate and to work with our teachers. Mm-hmm. Our parents are faced with similar issues with employment, housing, unemployment, homelessness. So one of our biggest barriers that we know is that strong family school partnership, and the assumptions that both educators and our families have about each other, and the definitions of what it means to engage with one another. That is very important to realize, that we're in this together and that we have to collaborate with our teachers at the schools as parents and share information with them, not only how to contact us, but to also share how our kids are doing at home with stressors. If they're doing the work, how are they feeling? Are they having a good day or a bad day? These are the things that can help teachers. So if they come into school the next day and the teacher already knows that they had a bad day at home that evening, they are informed. And that's that collaboration and that connection that the teachers and the parents are sharing with one another. And we're asking the teachers to do the same thing with the families. Share information about how their kids are doing inside of the school. Engage in a two-way communication. We know that teachers, as you heard with teachers, sharing what they need, and Becky said it too, they need time. We need to have that communication piece, that engaging two-way communication, where we keep in touch often. Not when our students are just doing bad, but to share with us how our teachers, our students are doing good things inside of the schools and the classroom, and reach out frequently with one another. And that, I can tell you, works. As a parent, my kids are grown now. And I had 3. One was a class clown in school, and I was in constant contact with his teacher when he was in the high school. He had my number. Yes, had my number, and didn't have any problems calling me and saying, I need for you to come up to the school right now. And I would show up in the classroom. Now, I know all parents can't do that. I worked at night, so it gave me the opportunity to do that. But now I see my granddaughter staying in contact, not my granddaughter, but my daughter, staying in, because I do have granddaughters. I got a bunch of them. But my daughter staying in contact with her teacher, which one of my grandsons has a speech impediment and he's dyslexic. So for her to build that communication through text message, by email, by phone conversations, if he's having a bad day, to say he didn't do really well last night on his homework. And these are the things that I saw that maybe this could help you because it worked here. She built that communication over time, and to see how he's progressing right now in school, where he is learning, he's loving to read more, even though he has this disability. With that, seeing how engaged and excited he is to going inside of the school, that's important. We have to support one another. And by providing that information and that relevant information and engaging in that open conversation, our families and our teachers and our schools can work better together. We can support one another and always support students' success, which is extremely important. We want our teachers to be successful. We don't want them to have large classrooms. We want them to have the resources that they need. We want them to have the funding that they need. And the reason why is because they're teaching our babies. And the teacher in front of our babies need to be successful because our kids are the future. So when we build those collaborations and get excited and getting to know one another and building those relationships, our kids can be successful. And in PTA, our mission is to make every child's potential become a reality by engaging and empowering parents and communities to advocate for all kids. And so how we help them reach their fullest potential is by working together and not against them.
Yes, ma'am. I love it. Listen, real quick, when my twins, who are now 21, as I said, when they were going into kindergarten, they had never gone to a preschool because I had them at home with me. But then I started going back to work and they went fresh into the kindergarten. And when I tell you, I got a call every single day because they would egg each other on, identical twins. And they'd say, we know you're a comic, but they're dropping their pants like every day. And I'm like, that's not the kind of comedy I do. I don't drop trow, but they would run around with their coolie hanging out because that's what they were used to doing at home. And I'm telling you, the most successful classroom situations I had was being in communication with the teachers. And with text, it's easy to do now. Not that you want to bug teachers all night long, but I love what you said about being in communication. Also for when things are going well, parents can tell you, you know what, this is working, whatever you're doing. Don't always do bad management style, sometimes good management style. You know, this is working great. All right, and now let's get to the star of the show, Secretary Cardona. What is this administration proposing to address the crisis facing the teaching profession and support the mental health of teachers?
Well, you know, let me again say that what I heard from the teachers on the call, Teresita, Samantha, Kevin, Heidi, like you're not going to hear anything different from me. I think we have a responsibility to come out of this pandemic stronger than we were before. And it all starts with respecting the profession, lifting the profession. You know, when I started as a fourth grade teacher, I remember saying, you know, it seems like people don't respect the profession the way they should. And that was in the 1900s, Lisa. So like still today, and I know your mom taught too in the DC schools. And I know, you know, teachers bend over backwards. It shouldn't take a pandemic for us to appreciate our teachers. So what the administration is doing, number one, we're showing respect to our teachers. We're thanking them for what they did and what they risked these last 2 years to make sure that our kids were cared for and make sure their colleagues were cared for. But it goes more than that. We're fighting for increase in teacher salary, a competitive salary. We're highlighting the states that are doing it well, and we're bringing attention to those states that are not doing it well. Name another profession where you have a master's degree and you have to have another job so that you can make ends meet. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So it's about time that we stop talking about it and start putting our money there. There's more money in education thanks to the federal funds and the American Rescue Plan to kickstart that. But it doesn't mean that states and local districts can't match that urgency and continue that moving forward. So salary matters. Salary matters. And teachers need to stop being apologetic about saying that. Salary matters.
Yeah.
Secondly, working conditions. You know, when you work in a school and You are supporting your students, helping them with the academics, also providing social and emotional support and guidance, and feeding a kid when they're hungry. That's a lot on teachers. We need to make sure the working conditions are right, meaning we have adequate social workers in the school psychologists, family liaisons to connect with families as well. Good working conditions, time. I heard Becky talking about it before. Time to talk to colleagues. In the medical profession, doctors work together to problem solve together. In education, they have to do that during lunch. Kind of like Abbott, right? They have to do it during lunch. That's unacceptable. We need to do better. And then the third thing primarily is voice. You know, our teachers, second to the parents, our teachers know their students more than anyone else. As we reimagine education moving forward, make sure our teachers have a voice in the process, have a seat at the table before the plans are written, etched in stone. So good salary, good working conditions, and a teacher voice. That's the message that we've been saying. At the Department of Education, you know, like you say on the show, I know a guy who knows a guy, right? Yeah. So President Biden, from day one, with the American Rescue Plan, has provided $130 billion to really make sure we're leveling up in education and getting our schools safely reopened. But also through the budgets, we're increasing it at record levels, the budget proposals, to make sure that it's ongoing funding for education, to make sure we can do things like support grow your own programs, right? We have a lot of programs where we have high school students committing. I was on a call today with students from Georgia who were committing to become teachers as high school seniors. We should be funding those students, helping them get to college and getting them back into the classroom in the communities that serve them. We're also promoting programs that support helping teachers with higher education costs. We know that higher education has spiraled out of control, and we're working on fixing that. And then our teachers are public servants. And we have a program called Public Service Loan Forgiveness that prior to President Biden coming in office didn't work. 98% of the people that applied for it were rejected. We changed that, we're fixing that. And I want every teacher listening to go on to studentaid.gov to see if you're eligible today for 100% student loan forgiveness. There's a window of a year where we're taking in teachers that are on different loans to make sure that they qualify for this program. So we're trying to support our teachers, providing funding for professional development. But more important than anything else, because we're going to keep doing, every year we're going to do more and more. We're talking about loan forgiveness, you know that, and we hope to have information soon. But more importantly, we're going to lift the profession by showing respect to the profession, giving teachers voice, giving them a competitive salary, and making sure that their working conditions are conducive to their mental health, making sure they have access to programming. We can't expect our teachers to care for our students if we're not caring for them. So at the end of the day, we're lifting up the message. Let me tell you, Lisa, it helps to have a teacher in the White House. Dr. Biden, she's the best advisor to the president. And, we know that the president is listening to her. His policies and the words that he's saying and the actions show that we're elevating the profession. And with our partners on the call, the National PTA, our friends at NEA, and most importantly, the teachers who have been bending over backwards for our students, it's time to level up education, show the teachers the respect that they deserve, and not make it just Teacher Appreciation Week, but Teacher Appreciation Year. This is your year, teachers.
Thank you, Secretary Cardona. That was beautifully said. Yes, I love it. So pay teachers on top of the cost of living increase, right?
Right,
Becky, that 5% on top of the cost of living increase. I'm working with you. I'm negotiating. Yeah, I don't know who I'm negotiating against, but I'm negotiating. Also, I think maybe Abbott Elementary should start putting together a scholarship fund for people who want to become teachers. I'll make a call. Yes, I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Okay, so I'm going to throw it back to Anna King, National PTA President Anna King. Thank you guys so much for having me. She's going to bring it home. And thank you all for being here.
Well, how amazing are our guests, right? Before I say anything else, let's give everybody a round of applause. Okay, got to give everybody a round of applause because this is a hard topic to talk about. Lisa Ann, thank you for moderating this conversation. You are a true rock star. Not only on the screen where you make us laugh, but you totally rocked this out and you made everyone feel comfortable sharing their story and giving everybody the opportunity to speak. So thank you so much. We'll give you a round of applause. Yes, I totally agree, Samantha. Samantha, Teresita, and Kevin, thank you for doing a job well done. Kevin, I have to say, I love that you gave a shout out to your students. Man, thank you for putting them students up there in the front, which you guys do every day inside of the classroom, and we appreciate that. Secretary Cadona and NEA President, Miss Becky Pringle, thank you for all of your insight. I'm always learning every time I'm in a meeting, on a webinar with you guys. You guys give me chill bumps because you have been in the classroom and you get it. And now you're in the forefront advocating for our children and most importantly, our teachers. So thank you so much for everything that you shared with us this evening. It's so important to listen to the message that you guys heard and that was shared. The resources, respect. How many times did we hear respect? Funding, mental health days, culture of learning, smaller class sizes, teachers having a seat at the table are just a few things that you heard today from the teachers. To each of you watching, thank you for joining us tonight and listening to the concerns of our teachers. Listen. That's important that we listen and that we continue to advocate for our teachers, because when our teachers are successful, our children are successful, right? For another opportunity to listen, National PTA is releasing a special Teacher Talk miniseries of its Notes from the Backpack podcast, which will feature more conversations with educators just like this one. We hope that you go to our website. These episodes will be released every Wednesday through mid-May and will be available at stream at pta.org/backpacknotes. Please continue to follow National PTA and NEA this week and to visit pta.org/thankateacher, hashtag, she said it, hashtag thankateacher, and NEA.org/TAW for ideas and resources to honor and thank all of our teachers. I also want to encourage each of you to elevate this important work of teachers by sharing photos and stories of teachers who have impacted your life and your children's life on social media using that hashtag #ThinkATeacher. I know I'm going to be sharing mine. I had a few teachers that really made an impact on my life and teachers of my children and now of my grandchildren. So please make sure that you do that hashtag #ThinkATeacher. And to tune in to Abbott Elementary on Tuesday evenings on ABC. So you can see the rock star, Miss Lisa Ann Walter, and everyone else in a comedy, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's amazing. To all of the teachers right now that are watching, happy Teacher Appreciation Week, and thank you for going beyond the call of duty every day to support our children's learning and development and to ensure that they have the tools that they need to be successful inside of the classroom to reach their fullest potential. That is extremely important. Thank you so much. And please know that you are not alone and that we are all in this together and we are committed to partnering with you, supporting you, and advocating for what you need. Parent Teacher Association. The T represents the teacher, and we are partners, and we have to get this work done together. Thank you to our proud National PTA sponsors, Office Depot and BAND, for their support of Teacher Appreciation Week and our nation's educators. Thank you all once again. And once again, let's give everybody on the screen a round of applause because they spoke from their hearts and they wanted us to listen, and we did. And that's why we're going to continue to advocate for them and for all of the resources that they need to be successful. Have a great week, everyone.